Hello and welcome to another video covering the NCEA number standard. This is a sausage sizzle practice and it covers the important aspects that are needed for just about any NCEA number paper that you'll do. Alright, so what's missing in this is it doesn't have anything to do with the exchange rate, so it's leaving out that little bit, and it also doesn't have interest over a period of time. So those are little aspects that could be in an NCEA standard, but this one doesn't cover. But it does cover the most important things, which are percentages, finding a percentage of a certain amount, finding ratio given a certain total, fractions of an amount, and either removing or adding GST onto things. So let's have a look at this example here. We have a sausage sizzle which is about to be conducted here, and is expected to be about 500 people attending. These numbers are approximate here. They expect about 80% of the people attending will buy one sausage, and 5% will buy 2 sausages. Alright, so this is all to work out how much it will cost, and eventually the question is going to ask how much we should charge per sausage. Alright, so here's the process of what we have to do, and in this particular one you can actually work through everything just one by one in the order of the information that's given to you, so that's quite a good thing. Sometimes you don't, sometimes you can't actually do that. Sometimes you have to actually look at some of the things at the very end before you actually get to this working with the information that's given to you at the start. But this one's pretty much straightforward here. So what we'll do is we'll look at, first of all, people and then sausages. So 500 people to attend. So just a moment. Okay, so I've got a calculator on screen to show you some of the things we can do on here. The easiest way to work out a percentage of a certain amount using these type of calculators, these natural display calculators, which are quite good and highly recommended, is to type out the number and then multiply it by the percentage. So you just got 80% there. If you don't have a percentage key, now notice that there is a percentage key just here, but if you didn't have that, you would have to change that percentage into a decimal value, which is just dividing it by 100, 0.8. Okay, 0.80, that's actually 80%. Alright, or you don't have to have a 0 afterwards, it doesn't actually make any difference. But so you hit equals and 400. If you want it to be a little bit easier than that, you just go back, and if you've got, just by chance, hopefully you don't forget how to convert from percentages to decimals, but if you do, you can just press shift and percent. So we've got, this is 80% of 500 equals 400. Alright, so it's a total times the percentage gives you your answer. Now if we just scroll down and look at the answer over here, we'll notice we've written in here times 0.80, which is the same as 80%. Right, and that's that little bit that we've just calculated there. You could actually write down the result of that, which is 400, but this person here who's written the answers in has done everything in one go. In fact, they've worked out the percentage of that other group of people who buy 2 sausages. So I'll just explain that over here. So we've got 5% of the people who are attending buy 2 sausages. So if I go back there and put in 5% and then hit equals, you get 25. Okay, you might be able to even do this in your head, mind you. You can do it easy enough to do in your head. 10% of 500 is actually 50. and so 5%, which is half of that, is 25. But nevertheless, it's an easy way of doing it, multiply by percentages if you don't know how to do that in your head there. Okay, but this does have to actually be multiplied by 2, because after you've worked out the 5% of people who buy 2 sausages, and we know there's 25 of them, they're buying 2 sausages. So to get the number of sausages, we would have to multiply that by 2. So there's 50 sausages bought by those people altogether. Alright, now this is all calculated together, as there's 50 people in the second bit and there's 400 in the first bit, 450 altogether. If you wanted to do this all in one big go, you can actually put the whole thing into the calculator like this here, straight. This is a times here, not an x, but multiplying by the 80% and then adding on 500 times the 5%, 0.05 is 5%, and then multiplying by 2, and then of course the addition is done last because of bed maths, adding those two calculations together, and we get 450 sausages. Alright, make sure you actually show your working, whatever you do, whether you do it in 2 steps or whatever, and put a label in there as well at the very start to make it very clear what you're doing, and of course the result gets put in there as well. Alright, so we're on to the next step, and the next step is to do it for bread. There are 25 slices of bread, slices inside one loaf, for one loaf. Alright, so we need to work out the number of loaves, and you've got to divide the number of sausages, because there's actually the same number of slices of bread. We're going to have 450 sausages, and so 450 slices of bread. Well, how many loaves is that? Well, you just divide it by 25. Now, for those of you who don't know that this is actually division, got a fraction here actually means division. This is 450 over 25, which is the same as 450 divided by 25. And if you do that on a calculator, 450, you could say is a fraction like this, divided by 25 equals, and there we go, 18. Or if you wanted to, 450 divided by 25 like that, and it's 18. Alright, so the cost of bread, we were told that the bread is $3 per loaf, and so the cost of all of those loaves together are going to be 18 loaves times $3, which gives us 54. Alright, so I could put that into the calculator, but I think it's pretty obvious there. 18 times 3, 54. Alright, next step. Go back here again, let's go down now. We've done the bread, we've done the sausages here. Well, we haven't done a ratio part of the sausages. We've got a little bit more information about sausages here. Alright, so first of all there's packs of sausages, and then later on we have to put them into a ratio of 1 to 6. For some people buying vegetarian and some people buying the common meat sausages. So first of all, packs of sausages. Alright, 16 sausages per kilogram. So it's a little bit like this slices question here. A certain number of slices in a loaf of bread and a certain number of sausages in a kilogram, and you can't get half of a loaf or whatever. It worked out to be exactly 18 anyway, so that was fine. But over here you can't get half or a bit of a packet. You've got to round it to the nearest packet. So we're going to divide by 16 this time. So what we've got here, let's go down and have a look at the answer. We've got 450 sausages, that was bread, remember there, 450 divided by the number of slices in a loaf. 450 divided by the number of sausages in a packet. Alright, and so if I do this, I can go 450, I could use this here if I wanted to, a fraction, or I could just go 450 divided by 16, and this time, okay, so we get something like this. If that happens on your calculator, press the SD button to get an actual decimal here. So it's 28.12. Now You could argue, this is where it comes down a little bit of just an opinion really. If you wrote down 29, some people might think, oh, we better have enough, we better have more than what we need, just make this 29 packets just in case we've got enough for everybody to sell, and nobody misses out. But then another person might say, well, doesn't matter if a couple of people miss out, we don't want to have too many sausages left over, so could round it down to 28. So the answer actually could be open to opinion, either 28 packets or 29 packets. We will stick with 28 packets of sausages. Alright, so we've got here, get 28 kilograms. Now, ratios. There's a ratio of, and it's just given us the answer here. I think it should show a little bit more working than what's shown here though. This model answer has not shown our little steps of working of how we got the number of veggie sausages and the number of meat sausages, 24 kgs of meat. It's 28 kilograms altogether, of course. Now, this is where a lot of people go wrong. They will say, well, 1 to 6, that means 1/6. 1/6 of veggie. Well, let's have a look at that. Suppose I go 1/6, and then you've got to go out here, okay, to go across, so you can press the times. 1/6 of 28. Okay, now just change it to a decimal. This is just 4.66666 reoccurring. Now, that could get rounded up to the nearest one, which would be 5. Now, what's wrong with this? What's wrong? This is not actually 1/6. A ratio must be over the total. Alright, what this means is, if you think of a box, and I haven't drawn it here, but you think of a long box with 7 squares in it. A long box with 7 squares. Now the very first box, you can draw this yourself if you like, the very first box will mean that's for the veggie. The veggie sausages all go into that box. And then 6 times that amount will be the boxes for the standard sausages. Alright, so 1 box for the veggie sausages, and 6 boxes, 6 times as much boxes for the standard sausages, because it's 6 times as much. But if you count up how many boxes there are altogether, there's actually 7. There'll be 7. The 1 for the veggie and the 6 for the standard boxes. So in fact, as a fraction, the veggie sausages are actually 1/7. So don't make the same mistake, and like a lot of people do, and they say 1/6. It's not 1/6. It's 1/7. And for the meat sausages, it's 6/7. Alright, so let's go back and do it correctly this time. 1/7 for the vegetarian, and hit the right arrow key there, times 28, because we've got 28 packets altogether. We're going to spend money on 28, so it's approximately 28. Alright, so then you hit the equals key, and you should show you working like this actually. Whatever you put into the calculator, this is a little bit wrong, what we've done, and just we haven't shown our working here. So, but you should write that down technically. 1/7 times 28 equals 4 kilograms of veggie. So that's what it's given us here. We do have the answer, but we should have written the working in there as well. Alright, now the other one, how do we get that 24? Well, let's just go back. We could actually edit this, go back just to edit it. It's the easier way actually. Change that 1 into a 6. Alright, and hit equals, and we get 24. Alright, once again you should show your working. This little bit here should be written down as well. So we've got 24, and of course you can check, always double check. 4 plus a 24 give us the 28 kg that we need. Alright, so it's just a You can also check another way as well. You can see that that's 4 and 6 times that amount is 24. Alright, so for every 4 there you get 6 times as much, and or of course the ratio says that too. There's 6 times as much meat as veggie. Alright, so lots of ways of checking to see if we're in the right, done it correctly, in the right way. Alright, next step. We have been told that the vegetarian sausages cost $10 per kilogram and the meat sausages cost $8 per kilogram. So vegetarian sausages were 4 times $10, could do this here, so $40. Alright, so $40 for the vegetarian, and then we knew the 24 packets or kilogram packets, a kilogram for each packet is a kilogram, alright, with 16 in there, but anyway 24 of these kilogram packets times $8 for each of the kilograms. Alright, meat sausages is 192, and if you add those together, 232. So let's go down and see what the working was over here. Yes, so we got the same thing, 10 times 4 plus 8 times 24. It's just done the whole thing in one big go. It's like bed mash, you do the times here first and then you do the times over here. So those two steps, one for the veggie, one for the meat, and then you add it together with a plus as a final thing. And if you want to, you can just do it in one big step there. Alright, and it's showing all your working there. So 232. Alright, now next step is to do with GST. So if we want to add GST, let's just have a look at something about GST, by the way. You know, if you had $100 and you wanted to work out 15% of that, because in New Zealand we have GST is 15%. So let's just do this percentage thing here to show you what I mean. Okay, it'll be $15, you know, so the total would be, if you had $100 without GST and then the person had to add on 15%, you would get $15 GST, and then you would have to do a second step and you'd add the $100 originally as well. So you got $100 plus 15, and it's going to be $115 with GST altogether. Well, here's an easy way of doing this. If we multiply anything by, say, $100 times 1.5, now have a guess what that will be. It'll be 150, won't it? Notice that we've got the 1 at the very start, and the 0.5 means a half extra. Alright, multiplying by 1.5, multiplying by 1.5. 1.5 times as much. Alright, so this 0.5, which is an extra little bit above 1, means that's going to give us a little bit more than the 100, so it gives us 150. Well, if we did 100 times 1.15, this is an easy way of adding 15% in one go, right? So a little bit more than 1, and that'll give us $115 straight off. So it's just a single step rather than having to work out the GST and then add it on at the end. You can actually just do it in one big go. So start with $100, multiply by 1.15, and you get your final amount that has GST already in there. Alright, now the reverse of that, suppose we wanted to get rid of GST. Suppose we had $115 and we wanted to work out what the value of, or the price was before GST was added. Then we'll do the reverse of times. So the opposite of times is actually divide. So to add GST, you go times 1.15, but to remove GST, you divide by 1.15, and notice we end up with $100, which is the amount that we had without GST. So if you can remember this rule, we simply divide by 1.15 to remove GST. Alright, now let's look at what we had. We've got over here, these prices include GST. Because it is a fundraising event, the butcher will not charge GST. So he's going to be nice to us and he's going to give us a discount. He's going to remove the GST from our cost. So whatever we were paying, that's $232, we've got to remove the GST from that. Okay, so we have $232 divided by 1.15 to remove a GST. You get something like that of a fraction. These are the fancy calculators. They do this. Sometimes it's useful for reducing a fraction or whatever. It's a precise number, but we want a decimal, so press the SD key here. All right. So this means 201.7. Don't worry about that little bit there. 201.739. And in fact, the third decimal place is 5 or more, and when that occurs, you've got to round the second decimal place up 1. So it should be 201.74. Let's see what the answers have shown us. Alright, 202. Alright, so I wouldn't recommend this. I didn't actually write the answer schedule here for this particular thing, but it actually sometimes you can get away with doing this. I just wouldn't recommend it really. They've actually rounded it to the nearest dollar. Sometimes too much rounding like that will give you things that are a bit off, but it shouldn't be too far off in the end. And you can pay by FPOS these days anyway, so with FPOS it actually does, you could do like $1.99. You do actually have a 2 decimal places, so I'd still recommend that you stick to 201.74, but we'll just go with this value here. It won't actually give us too much of a difference. I just wouldn't recommend it. Alright, so we've got approximately $202 after the GST is removed. Alright, so let's go back to what we're doing over here. We've worked out the sausages, we're now onto tomato sauce. Alright, so this is the same sort of thing of division, right? So we first had, just think it's very, very similar. You know, you've got a big loaf of bread, has a certain number of slices in it, and you had to divide. We had a big kilogram of packet of sausages, and it had a certain number of sausages in there, and you had to divide as well, divide by 16 in that case. And now we have a bottle of sauce, 35 people. Now guess what, this actually brings us to a little bit of a problem with the person who designed this this question. Now there's a little bit of a fault here. I think what they really mean is 35 sausages. It's not going to make a huge amount of difference, but technically speaking it's a little bit confusing when we talk about people, because remember, some of the people were buying 2 sausages, and it's going to be, well, it's not recommendable to do it that way, and I don't think the way they've answered it is with, they've assumed even in the answers over here that it's divided by 35, so even the way they've answered it is as if that's actually sausages. Will be enough sauce for 35 sausages, not people, but 35 sausages. But it wouldn't make too much difference. Remember over here we had 425 people, but we had 450 sausages. Okay, so anyway, that wouldn't make too much difference. Just a little bit of a thing I thought I might mention in case somebody else figured that out there. Right, so let's go down, work out the tomato sauce. You've used 450, so it must be the sausages, divided by 35 sausages for 1 bottle. Like, how many bottles is it going to be? It's going to be 13, rounded up. Now, in this particular case, let's just have a look and work out what it is, and we may as well do this to see whether how they've rounded everything here. Divided by 35, press the SD key, 12.8 and 7 if you want. Anyway, the point is you definitely have to round. They've done it correctly for rounding here, because this is not dollars. You're not going to go to 2 decimal places, okay? And you really do need to have enough. We've decided for sausages. Well, for sausages, it wouldn't matter if we missed out. A few people missed out on the sausages. We're not sure if everybody's exactly 80% is going to buy it anyway. So remember, we rounded down and got a little bit less than what we should, or what we needed. But over here, we're actually rounding up. Okay, so really got probably nothing to do with the fact that this is closer to 13, but that for those sausages that we've bought, let's just make sure we definitely have enough sauce for the ones we have actually purchased. Alright, so that's really the mentality. It's the reason behind it here. We've rounded up to 13 to make sure we have enough for what we've purchased. Alright, so 13, 450 divided by 35, or over 35, same thing. It's a fraction or division, same thing. 13, rounded up. Alright, closest, you can't have a fraction of a bottle. Cost of sauce is going to be 13 times 13 bottles times the price of a sauce, which is $2.80. Let's go back there. Alright, $2.80 per bottle. Alright, and then the other thing here is local dairies offer to suppliers that just because it's a fundraiser, they're going to say, okay, 5/7 of a normal cost. That's all you have to pay, is 5/7. Alright, so let's go down here. We've got 13 times $2.80 is $36.40, and then $36.40 times 5/7 will give you 26. We could do that over there, but all it is just typing that up. Maybe we'll just do it. 86.40 times 5/7 equals exactly $26. Alright, so total cost is going to be what we had originally for the sausages. We had sorry, whoops, no, this is bread, sorry. Originally $54 for the bread, and then after the butcher gave us a discount, the sausages were $202, and then after we got a bit of a discount as well, we only had to pay 5/7 for the cost of the tomato sauce, so that was $26, and altogether with all of those added, you add them together and you get $282. Alright, now let's go back and have a look at what we've got here as well. We've got the parents will pay 1/5 of the total cost. Now lots of ways of doing this and working out what you have got to pay. Alright, so let's just go down and see what they've done in the answer schedule here. Parents pay 1/5. It doesn't show you working there. Okay, let's just show you what the working actually should be here. So if we had $282, and you could just do, well, one way of doing this is just divide by 5, okay? Alright, so that's 1/5. Well, done a little bit of rounding there, haven't they? Which I still wouldn't recommend. Probably better to write down $56.4.40. Alright, another way of doing this, you could go 282 times 1/5, and you get the same thing. Alright, okay, right, so let's have a look at the other one. School pays 10%, which is another thing. Okay, so 10% of that, let's work out what the school pays. If we just go back here, times 10%, you might be able to do this in your head, but I'm just doing it anyway. What do you want here? So we've got $28.2 is what the school is going to pay. And we're going with 10% because I think we were told that between 10 and 50. Let's assume that they only pay 10%, because they could pay 15%, but let's go with the 15. Go for 10%, because at least it covers us. Make sure we pay more rather than less. We don't want to calculate it and find that we don't have enough money in our funds in the end. So we're just going to go and just assume that the school only pays a little bit of it for us. So we're going with a 10% instead. Alright, so 282 times 10% will give us $28.20, and they've rounded it to $28, rounded down. Once again, I probably wouldn't round that. I would stick to the 2 decimal places, so I would recommend that. Alright, so then what they've done then is they have subtracted what the school is going to pay. So they've said that we had $282 and we don't have to pay the what the parents are paying, which is $56, and we don't have to pay, in other words, minus, subtract it, don't have to pay the $28. So what are we left with paying? $198. Alright, I'll show you another way of doing this whole thing. If you wanted to think just a little bit differently, maybe you're interested in a different way of doing it. Okay, this is the way I would do it personally here. Alright, so you don't have to do it this way if you're happy with that way. Some people really are happy with that way, that's fine. I'll show you another way here. So 1/5 of the total cost is in fact 20%, and the school is going to pay, and we're assuming it's 10%, so you're going to be discounted all up 30%. So what percentage are you going to pay? It has to add up to 100%, doesn't it? So if the school and the parents together have paid 30% and you only have to pay 70%. So what you can do is get that at 280. Let's just check what it was. It's $282, wasn't it? Okay, so 282 times 70% is what you pay, and that'll give it to you straight off, just one simple quick calculation. Alright, so 197.4. They said 198, but they've done some rounding in the process and it's put them off a little bit, but that's actually more accurate. 197.4, only a little bit different, it's just due to rounding. So the cost to 18 students, so let's just have a look. What was the other question? We're almost finished here. Okay, each band member, there's 18 band members. Now they're going to have to pay for the cost of the food, so let's take that 190, what was it there, 197 I think it was, wasn't it? 197.4 divided by 180, divided by 18 is 18 people. Yep. Alright, so that's what they're going to pay each. Oh, it doesn't actually say, they haven't actually answered this cost to the 18 students. I assume that it's asking for the cost for each person. Each year does, whoa, so they didn't answer that. The answer schedule does not actually answer the question. How much does each band student pay? Well, they pay $10.90 each. You've got to divide it by 18, so we've actually left that out in the schedule. Never mind. So it's going to be $10.90. Should be writing that down. Now here's the last little bit there. They want to make $700 profit. So if we assume that the cost of everything, all the items so far after the parents have paid for some of it and after the school has paid for some of it, is $198, alright, around about that anyway. And you want to make $700 profit. Now think of very often this is done in an ice cream container, so you collect all of your money, all of your coins from the sales of the sausages into a bucket or into an ice cream container or whatever. in that bucket or ice cream container, you will have to have enough money that will cover the cost of the food to give back to these students who have, out of their own money and kindness, bought the sausages and the bread and the sauce. And of course the parents have paid for it, but you don't need to get the money back for that. You need to get the money back for what the students have paid, so they can be reimbursed for what they've paid. And you also need in that ice cream container, you need $700 more as well, and then you'll have the amount of profit that you need left over after you take out $198 and give it back to the students, 18 students who paid for all the items. You'd be left with $700 in there in that ice cream container profit, which is what you need. So we need to have $700 more as well as that cost of all the items. So got here $198 plus 700 is $898 total inside the ice cream container. Okay, now the final calculation is simply working out how much per sausage. Now we know that there are 450 sausages, and we need to get funds in the ice cream container. We need to collect funds from all of the sales of $898, and so we divide that by 450 sausages, the amount that you would sell, the number that you would sell, and it works out to be approximately $2. Alright, so $2 per sausage, and I think it's just a little bit less if we work it out. Let's just do it anyway. 898 divided by 450 equals that. Okay, $1.99, right? So you may as well round it up, because even if it was actually $1.75, you want to, or even $1.65 or whatever, you would actually want to round it up. Doesn't matter if you get a little bit more profit. $2 is a good price, and they can just give that as a coin, a simple coin. You don't want to be dealing with 10 cents of change here and there and all of that, and there's usually no FPOS available. So it's actually better, even if it's anywhere near $2 or a little bit less than $2, to actually sell it for that precise gold coin $2.